Good, good, I'm good. Hey man, how are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the reason I didn't come back to that meeting this afternoon.
All right, council, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 5 o'clock, so I'll call this work session of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all members of the council are present. So we'll move right into our agenda, which should be in your meeting. We just swapped out, so make sure that you should have an updated agenda. The telltale is at 5:50 it says Planning Commission items. Make sure that's, otherwise you've got an old agenda. All right, so Jonathan, if you want to give us an update on our quarterly goals, of which they're all listed here.
So council, on your quarterly goals, we're still on track with most of our Q2 and Q1 that had rolled over. I think we talked about, and I need to remove that, but the staff update on police staffing issues, that can be removed from the Q1 goals. That was addressed 2 council meetings ago.
Right.
And then I think before you tonight, you'll see something to expand the water board, which is one of your Q2 goals. So that resolution will be on the agenda tonight. In terms of your projects, 60% drawings, 90% drawings for the rec center and city hall respectively. Those are still on track with the architect with CC and Litchfield. Phase 3 resurfacing is pretty close to being able to bid. And phase 2 is winding down. I think we only have a couple streets left on that to be complete. So I feel comfortable with where we're at right now. The biggest thing that we still are working on is trying to work out with Enterprise State Community College and the Enterprise City School Systems on a joint meeting.
All right. Any questions, council, of our Q2 goals? All right, thank you, Jonathan. So let's move right into our agenda review of our regular meeting tonight. If you'll turn, Beverly sent an updated agenda this afternoon. Did everybody? I think the only thing we've added is the ADVA, so we'll cover that when we get to it. So we've got our consent agenda. I'm going to skip over the first few items, but moving on to our consent agenda. Mostly typical stuff of meetings, minutes approval, accounts payable approval, contract billings of Blankenship, Poly, and KPS Group. That's, as you can see, invoice number 1 of our comprehensive plan. So good to see that we've got that underway. Some travel requests from the police department, and then privilege of floor and staff reports. Our old business, we will have one public hearing tonight. Anything we need to know about that, Barry, our public hearing tonight?
The public hearing, is that for that rezone
Yeah, so this
project?
is for the, from R100 to B1, 847 acres of land for Sri Vacant.
Is that the triangle property at
Mhm.
Porter Lunsford in 27?
No.
Damascus. There's nothing. No, sir. Everything was fine. It's
Okay.
just coming for a reading for
Right.
the public hearing. Yes, sir.
Yep. And that was a planning commission made a recommendation to approve that.
Planning Commission made a recommendation to approve, so it's just
Okay.
for you to read tonight.
All right. And then we've got, at the end of this work session, y'all are going to update us on some planning commission items. Is that right? That are not on the agenda tonight?
Yes, sir. We've got an update on some of the blight areas that we are working on in the
Okay.
city to give you an update if we have time, sir.
All right. As you can see, we've got a few planning commission recommendations to introduce a request from Deborah Sievers for rezoning about a quarter acre of land from B3 to R65. And we'll call for a public hearing for June 7th. Then we will have Resolution 050322, which is the Waterworks Board consent to amend the Certificate of Incorporation for the Waterworks Board. So did everybody get a chance to look at that resolution? I know, Eugene, you're on the Waterworks Board. You got any comments on this, Eugene?
No, it was brought up, of course, at the Water Board's meeting, and it was unanimously voted on by all 3 of the present members to change the Water Board from a 3-person membership board to 5 persons. And now it comes before the council for us to vote on it.
So one thing I noticed in here, which I know had been discussed, was limiting those 5 members to 1 member of the council and no
city employees.
And no city employees. So is everybody good with that? Any questions, concerns on the water? I know that's something we've been discussing for quite some time now. So, and then what we'll do on that same note, I was discussing with Eugene earlier, at the next council meeting, which will be the 17th of May, myself, Scotty, and Sonia will have 1 nomination each to fill the seats 1, 4, and 5 seat. One of those 4 or 5 is a 4-year slot, and then the other 2 are 6-year slots. And it's only 4-year for the first term, and then they'll go staggered after that. So moving on to the LWCF grant. Who wants to update us on this? Okay. Billy, come tell us about the application for the 2023 LWCF grant.
Okay, thank you. About a month ago, Kay and I attended a workshop with LWCF up in Montgomery.
Tell us what LWCF is.
LWCF is a land water conservation fund. It's primarily for a lot of recreational, for parks use, trails. We have purchased, like for the skate park. We've always, we had applied for a grant from there. They had, awarded us a grant for the skate park, the splash pad, pavilions, those type items, ball fields that we can build, help apply for a grant. It's a matching, it's a 50-50 grant. So we are interested in wanting to apply for PV Park, the work that we're going to be doing over there. And they have $8 million they like to give away, and that's a 50-50 max, so that's will be $16 million of projects. The max that any one can apply for towards a project. It's 500,000. So that means that we would have to match it with a 500,000 project. And so we are interested in wanting to apply towards the PV park as far as a grant goes. Once that is, if it's awarded to us, that becomes an LWCF property. As far as a property, the only thing you can't go back. It's always a federal land type situation. You can't go back and build a recreation center on that property or a building structure. But as far as building concession stands, restrooms, even a maintenance building, ball fields, that type facilities are eligible for this type of grant work. So it's a process that we have to go through to get this application in. It's due May 25th at noon. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, and this is step one to get your approval to allow us to apply for this grant and and have a resolution, and then we start working towards the other line items that we have to prepare for us to apply for this grant. Now, the grant is not automatic. It does go through a process. They evaluate, and then they make a decision and let us know. So we look for, if the grant is awarded to us, then we're looking at October of finding out. In November, they would like for us to go into contract with them, LWCF, and it's run through the state, through the ADECA program. So that's just kind of a brief history about it, and we've done this before many a time. So I know I missed out a few others, but this the sports complex, softball complex, that's under LWCF. We apply a grant for that facility too.
So this is obviously a project we've already approved, something we're going forward with anyways. It's not like we went and found a project for
That's
this.
correct. That's correct. And there's some stipulation, and that has to be, it's a project where it can't already been bidded out and started work on, so we have not got to that process, so we're still eligible to apply for that grant under the criteria.
Any questions of Billy on this? Any concerns? All right. Thank you, Billy.
Thank y'all.
All right, moving on. The next item on our agenda is the MWPP College Street WWTP, which is, I believe this is something we go through every year, our annual report for both the College Street Lagoon and the Northeast Lagoon. Barry, Glenn, who wants to give us a 2-minute tutorial on this?
All right, I'll try to narrow it down to 2 minutes. This is an annual report. It's MWPP stands for Municipal Wastewater Pollution Prevention Report, and it's something that's required by ADEM. The intent of it is basically it's a vehicle that the administration can use to kind of evaluate the effectiveness of the wastewater treatment system, plants, and collection system. It's a points-based system. Points are tallied. It's filled out by staff. We review it, but it's a points-based system. Points are tallied for when maybe during the year exceeded the permit limits. For sanitary sewer overflows that are uncorrected, points are tallied for that. Exceeding the design criteria of the plant, age of the plant is a points deal. Sludge disposal, plant staffing is evaluated. The lower the points, the better the system is performing. And the points goes from 0 to the maximum 783. So if you were in the upper range of that, you'd be in a bad situation. Just to give you a little idea about the plant, for 2021, the College Street and the Northeast plant both accumulated a total of 18 points each. So you're talking about 18 points out of a total of potential 783. So that's real good. Both of those were basically age points. So the plants are operating very, very efficiently. They were both upgraded in 2012. They had a lifespan of those upgrades of about 20 years, and they're both operating within design parameters. Just to give you a little idea, the Northeast plant is operating at about 52% of its hydraulic capacity. So about 52% on the Northeast plant. College Street is about 31% of the hydraulic capacity on an annual basis. So both of those, that's real good. Collection system, just to give you a little idea on sanitary sewer overflows, in 2011, there were 29 sanitary sewer overflows that were reported to ADEM. That's in 2011. Last year in 2021, there were only 2 reported. So really, that speaks to the efforts the city's done to monitor, improve the condition of the system, collection system. So overall, I can tell you this obviously is an excellent score. Clay Fleming and the sanitary sewer staff, all the various staff on that end are to be commended because the plant's very well operated and they're definitely operating within limits. And this report obviously shows that. So that's the purpose of the reports. And they have to be approved by council and they submitted to ADM.
Any questions of Glenn or Barry on these? So when you give those percentages, and does that mean that we could double Northeast and triple College Street
Pretty
before
much.
we would be at capacity?
Pretty much. There's an organic design capacity basically, and that's at 54% for Northeast Plant. I didn't mention it, and College Street's at 42%. So those are important too. But yeah, in essence, there's capacity at both plants for additional.
So all this obviously new growth we've got and everything,
Yes.
we're not going to overflow.
No,
Realizing
not
we do
as
have
work.
some work to do at both plants.
There's some things that need to be done at both plants. There are just maintenance things and catch up things. I know there's some electrical issues at College and some other things in Northeast that needs to be done. So those are just ongoing things that really need to be done. Collection system is in real good shape. There are some issues, obviously, with only 2 reported SSOs. That means that the outfalls and all are functioning pretty good. So there's not a lot of surcharging and causing issues at manhole. So those are good things. But yeah, all of that.
All right. Anything else? All right. Thanks, Gus. Okay, next item on the list is the back to school sales tax holiday. Obviously, something that the council has to pass in order to have a holiday on the city's portion of the sales tax. So any questions or concerns on that's something we typically take advantage of to all right, then we've got a couple of resolutions here to accept the maintenance for the streets and other public easements and improvements, specifically Woodland Park subdivision phase 4 and Bella Woods subdivision phase 1. What do we need to know about that, Barry?
So these are projects that went through the process and were constructed. We had a final walkthrough with the developer and the construction team and came up with punch list items. And all those punch list items have been completed. And they're just the planning commission did move forward with the final plat. So it's there for you to approve the final plat and for us to take ownership of the roads and maintenance of the right of way for those 2 subdivisions. But staff is good with both of those.
Any questions? All right. The next item on here is the addition to the agenda. This was just added to the packet today. To Jonathan Rayner, who wants to introduce this to us. I know they distributed the development agreement and this resolution to our emails separate from the agenda, so you should have all had an opportunity to review.
So, we're just basically codifying the agreement and the partnership that we outlined in our presentation to the ADVA on what obligations the city would have during the construction of the home and then subsequent maintenance. So establishing right-of-ways, turning over a deed, who's going to cut certain areas along the right-of-ways and maintain those, who will be responsible to provide water, sewer, pay for those things, where that money will come from. All that's kind of articulated in the agreement that you have before you. The ADVA would like to, start moving on that prior to the groundbreaking. I think they said somewhere around June 17th on a groundbreaking for that project. And so we have a lot of things that we need to kind of button up to make sure that as we go through this process that, the city wasn't expecting the ADVA to do something that they were expecting us to do, and making sure that our budget's right on those numbers.
It's basically over 2 years ago, the city made a bunch of commitments to the veteran to recruit the veteran home here.
Right.
And we are just making that official today.
Correct. And I think in this agreement, I think the way it's worded is that you would authorize the mayor to enter into that agreement And I think we've still got a couple of tweaks that we're talking to the ADVA about on that, and would hope that the council would allow, staff and the mayor to work through those issues with them. Won't substantively change the dollar figures or anything in the agreement, but as an example, if the ADVA wanted us to maintain, 50 acres of the property versus 5 or something like that, those are city resources that, we would have to decide if we could or couldn't do that.
Yeah. So everybody get a chance to review this. Any questions? Obviously, this was done before some of you were even on the council, but it's very consistent with what was agreed to. So, all right, thank you. So as you see there, if we're going to consider this tonight, we're going to have to suspend the rules. And my understanding, Jonathan Reiner, y'all are requesting that we move forward with this tonight. Okay. So you might have a concern with suspending this obviously been in the public sphere for in excess of 2 years. So. Okay, so request permission to purchase a vehicle. So it looks like we've got a request from Chief Davis to purchase a F-150 off of the state bid list. Chief, come tell us about that. I'd had a conversation with Barry about this. Give us a little history.
This was a budgeted item that we put in last year. Hopefully I think I mentioned it to you guys to replace a 2000 Crown Vic, which doesn't exactly help the mission.
I can't hear you.
Oh. This was to replace a 2000 Crown Vic that we had. This was a budgeted item that was placed last year.
Was the local automotive companies given the opportunity to bid on it?
Yes, sir.
Sir, so we looked at the state bid list to see if there was a vehicle available under the state bid list. They go through that process, and we can pick directly off the state bid list if that's what we choose to do. I did call the company that has the state bid is Stivers out of Montgomery. We reached out to them. They actually have 2 red F-150 crew cab four-wheel drive, the same truck that we're looking for in transit, believe it or not. With the lack of vehicles on the lot, they had 2 of them coming in. So I did reach out to the local Ford dealership here in town and ask them, would they be interested in bidding on this process? We opened up with a requisition for doing that. They said they cannot get vehicles. Even if they were to order it, they don't know when they would be able to build a vehicle. So they said that they would prefer just to pass on this time to bid on it. And please consider them in the future. We also reached out to another local dealer, and they said the same thing. It's honestly shocking that we've got some on the state bid list that we pick from that actually have vehicles coming in. So we did check. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what Barry and I had spoken about on the phone last week.
I do need to tell you that this was a budgeted item, but it does come in a little under $3,500 over what was requested. But we have been able to adjust some other projects, so we will still come in budget.
Okay. Any questions of Chief or Barry on this vehicle request? All right, thank you. All right, then we've got our board appointments. So just to make sure I've taken some notes on this, get this straight. So we've got Eugene, you were going to make a nomination for the Board of Education seat 2, correct?
Correct.
Then Scotty, you had a nomination for the library seat 3. Then Greg, you had one for Board of Adjustment seat 1. Sonia, seat 2. And Greg, Incubator, seat 1. Right. So we're all in order there. So will there be any additional nominations for any of these seats? And are there any questions of anybody on these board nominations? All right. So then we'll move to mayor's report and council member comments, and that will be it. So everybody good with this agenda? Any additions, deletions? All right, let's go back to our work session agenda. All right, on time. Let's talk about nuisance properties. Our favorite topic.
So, Mayor and council members, I know that one of your big agenda items, certainly since our strategic planning meetings that came out of that, were nuisance properties, how to address it. You charged the staff with coming up with a plan for that. And I want to commend the staff's work on that, particularly Clay and Barry and the entire engineering department. But we also had the city attorney, police chief, fire chief, state health authority. Am I missing anybody else in that? Oh, Leanne, even with our business license ordinances on how these are going. So, I mean, this has really been a collaborative effort, multiple meetings throughout the months, trying to come up with some solutions that actually impacted some of the properties and made progress in the way that you wanted. So with that, I'll turn it over to Barry and his staff and let them kind of give you an update.
Thank y'all. I want to echo what Jonathan said as far as it's been a team effort. To where we've gotten today, we still got a lot of work ahead of us, but we pulled this together just to kind of to walk us through some of the things that have happened, of how we got here, basically what some recent developments we've got. If you will, click the next slide. Just recent developments, some contributing factors of how we got here, and then basically an approach forward. So if you can click the next slide. Go ahead. So, since I've been here for the last year, it's been a council, effort to see what we're going to do about nuisance properties. And we looked around, and there are some repeat offenders that we see out there, some areas that seem to keep coming back on the list. And we started looking, and Clay, since he came on board with engineering, he and I have been tag teaming this together, and he's done some great work looking at what we can do, what we have on our books, and we'll go through that in a minute. But we also let you know that we reached out to police, fire, Leanne, the Board of Health, State Board of Health, and there's been a collaborative effort to get us to where we are today. And Clay, next slide. I'm gonna turn this over to Clay because he's the one that started this initiative with the letters, and let him start talking about that, and I'll get back in a minute.
Good evening. As he stated, I'm Clay Nelson, the new code enforcement officer or inspector for the City of Enterprise. Just go ahead and jump into this. When he tasked me with this, first thing I went down to Colony Drive and did an initial inspection of the exterior of the buildings, the roads, the wooded areas around it, and we found a lot of problems, which we knew going into this there was going to be a lot of problems. But what we did, myself and Barry, we put together 40 letters sent to each property owner and any listed resident. Not a whole lot of listed residents. Most of them were out-of-state property owners, about 50-50. We declared that the property was in non-conformance, wanted an outline of what we could do between them and us to get them back in order, the roads, the property, and a timeline on when we could get that done. Out of the 40 letters, I received 10 callbacks. And out of the 10 callbacks, I had one property owner out of Atlanta, drove all the way from Atlanta to here just to meet with me. That was last Wednesday, April 27th. During that visit, I had multiple tenants come out, reach out to me, hey, can you come look at this? Can you come see what's going on with our property? And what we wanted to gain at the beginning of this was entrance in some of these houses. We knew the outside was horrible. We knew that the roads were horrible. But we knew not every one of them was as bad a shape as the other. Not every home down there is just that bad. But we knew if we got inside of some of these houses what we would find, or hoping what we would find. And after that, after meeting with some of the tenants, I called Barry, got him up there, let him go through it. If you'll click to the next slide, please. This is from my initial inspections. This is what we expected. Not really expected, not what we wanted to see, but this is what we found. Go to the next one. That is actually a sinkhole that goes from one side of the sidewalk on one end of Colony Drive and goes all the way to the other with two basketball size holes that drop down. You can't see the bottom. Go to the next one. And this is at the end of Colony. This is stuff that you see every day on Colony Drive. When you drive down Colony Drive, this is what you see. And the next slide is going to be, I'm going to let Barry take that back over, what we found when we went inside.
Thanks, Clay. So, we knew that we would probably find some issues when we were out there, and as Clay said, when we showed up, he was meeting with a property owner. We had tenants coming out to us saying, "Hey, would you come look at my place? We need some help. Would you come look at it?" So they invited us in. We came in to see what they were up against, and like we knew that from the exterior pictures we've seen, but when we started in and you start really looking at the details of what's going on, you can see on the left-hand picture, from the road, you can see that the handrail around that deck is, removed or missing. But when you start looking, I know you can't really see it from there, but in the middle picture, the beams that hold up that deck at the wall are actually coming off the building. And in that far right, you can see that there's actually a triangle where the bottom deck is actually falling away from the building. And at some point, worried that it would fall off. Now, this property owner invited me up, and I walked down the deck, and I decided, I'm a pretty big guy, and I took 2 steps out, and I'm like, I don't think I feel safe with doing this. It felt like the floor was giving, so I did back off. So that's very typical of what some of the residents are. I will put this caveat out there that you can't do a blanket statement that every facility there is in this bad repair that I'm fixing to show you, but I wanted to show you what we did see. So click the next slide. This is another one of the decks. It's not the same one I was looking at, but you can see there's missing boards, rotted wood. It didn't recently rain. It looks wet because the wood is actually saturated and deteriorated. And
Barry, a moment ago you said you stepped out on that deck with the property owner. Was it the owner or the resident?
It was the resident. I'm sorry, the resident of the property, not the owner. I apologize. Next slide. This is one of the windows that's there in one of the facilities. As I went up and looked at it, I know you're a little bit far away, but there's the actually wood behind the brick that's there. The wood is rotted. It's gone. What's holding that window in, I'm not sure. There's a little bit of caulk holding it in place, but you can see that there's water intrusion going into the walls of some of those buildings, and it's rotten pretty bad. Next slide. We walked around the side, and I knew that I could smell something that smelled like raw sewage. And in the left-hand picture, you can see there's a child's push toy, riding toy that was in the left as we walked up. And the closer they got, the worse the smell became. And the tenant of the facility said, "Hey," he said, "we can't go out on the porch anymore. It's gotten so bad that it's just awful inside the building." So as I walked up to that back corner in the right-hand side, there's a video I'm going to play for you if you don't mind, Clay. Click the video. You can see that, give it 1 second. What you'll actually see is there's raw sewage that's coming out of the corner of that facility, that corner of that building. And that's actual toilet paper and feces on the ground. You can see the water actually running. It's actually flowing from the property off across the property down the hill. We did notify the state health department about the situation. They can handle raw sewage that's outside of a building, but they do not have jurisdiction inside the building. That's where the city would have to step in inside the building. Next slide, Clay. Right inside that same facility, when you come inside, there's not all the ceiling looks like this, but this is kind of a common theme where we have it looks like appearance of a lot of roof leaks, and either current water damage or past previous water damage where we have mold growing on the interior of some of the ceilings and on the walls in some of these facilities. Next slide. One of the tenants that was there allowed us to come in, and we asked if we could take some pictures, and they told us yes. So as we opened up the closet door to one of the air handlers for this particular facility, I could tell it was something dark. As you look in the middle side, that is complete mold growing on the inside of the air handler. All the air comes into this to the HVAC unit, which gets distributed to their whole apartment there. I will note that on the right-hand side, when you open the door up, that's the electrical box for the air handler unit. It has no cover. That's 240 volts sitting right there. If you were to come in to pull the air filter out of the air handler and you were to put your hand up there, your hand's directly on live electricity inside the facility. So in no way does it meet any code that the city has or any city would have. Next. The picture on the left is the exterior. We walked around in the corner of the building. There was where a fixture was on the outside, like a ambient security light type fixture. Fixture's gone. The wires are exposed and hanging out there with no covers, nothing to keep somebody from touching those ends of those leads. Also on the right, you can see more water damage that we saw on the ceilings. Next slide. One of the facilities we walked into in the back porch, this was ground level. I looked down, I saw those are sandbags at the bottom of the base of the door. I asked the question of what the sandbags are for, and I was told that every time they get any significant rain of any type, water comes right inside their den, right through the door into the den. This person actually had 2 rugs that they had inside there on the floor, and they had them up drying. They said every time it rains, they have to take them outside, dry them back out, bring them back inside once they're dry, try to keep the moisture down. On the left-hand side, you can see a door. I'm looking at the right picture on the left-hand side. There's a door handle right there, and when you walk inside the door, you can see the whole top of that has had water damage, and there's mold growing inside that storage closet as well. Next slide. So I can just tell you, I could have bombarded you with pictures. I want to give you just kind of a rough outlook of what we saw while we were there. But contributing factors, this is a focus on Colony. We picked one just to start with. We picked on Colony Drive to look at. There's other ones to look at as well. Clay went and pulled the records off GIS and the property owners. This map just kind of shows there's more than 40 individual property owners through there. And go to the next slide if you don't mind. This is my list of some of the things that I think have contributed to why Colony has gotten to the situation that it is. The top of the list is individual ownership, but individual ownership with private roads and I say maintained streets. I use that word maintained very loosely because they're not being maintained. There's no interior right-of-ways. There's no standard garbage procedures. Some places there's city garbage, some places there's not. There's dumpsters out there. Some people use the dumpsters. Some people just throw it on the ground next to it. There's no homeowner association. There's no common area management firm. There's no one local contacts to contact. Everybody kind of does their own thing if they do anything at all to maintain these facilities. Next. So our approach forward, where do we go from here? We have 2 things to look at. One's abatement of the problem we've got, the nuisance, and the other is preventative. Excuse me. Next slide. For preventative, we've gone through our zoning and subdivision regulations, and as we hired KPS to help us update our zoning and planning regulations and our subdivision regulations, we're going to add some things to that and give us some things that have some more teeth to it that will help us in the future. That's something we will do. As far as the abatement, we currently, a previous council approved a 1985 standard unsafe building abatement code. And what that code means, and this is the words directly from the code, is to protect public safety, health, and general welfare through structural strength, stability, sanitation, adequate light, ventilation, and safety of life and property. Some of the places we went into, they didn't even have lights inside the facility. We looked up, there was a ceiling fan running, and there was no light bulbs. And I said, why don't we have light bulbs in your thing? So every time we put light bulbs in, the ceiling fan goes off. It shorts out the electrical in the apartment. So is there lights in the hallway that we can take a picture? No, there's no lights in the hallway. They don't have lights in the hallways because they said every time we put a light bulb in there, it shorts out the electrical and the thing. So every one of those words that are set up in that abatement code, I thought were pertinent to what we saw last Wednesday. Next slide. In the code, it says what is an unsafe building, and I gave you the direct link of what it says, but a building or structure that has any of the following things that affects life, health, property, and safety of the occupants. And those 5 things there's about 12 bullet points in the code that says these are the things that they consider unsafe. I picked out 5 that I thought were pertinent to the situation, but damage to fire or other causes to the structure. There's one structure there that looks like it's either had a fire or complete cave into the roof. It's completely fallen in. Building where the exterior appendage is not securely fastened, like the deck that's out there that's falling off of the building. Unsafe, unsanitary. We got raw sewage running around one of those, at least one of those buildings that we know of. The building and structure in condition to constitute a public nuisance. I think all the pictures I could show you would be a public nuisance and that's dangerous to human life and constitutes a hazard. Next slide. So what do? So as the building official for the city, there is a process that this code allows us to use. And the process basically says that I have the right, the building official has the right to inspect these buildings or structures, and if we find them unsafe, we shall initiate proceedings to cause the abatement. And you can do one of three things. You can repair, you can vacate, or you can demolish, or any combination thereof. Next slide. So as we go through this process, and if I go into a facility and I said, yes, we need to proceed for this facility, there's one or two decisions that have to be made. The top one says that I can order repaired in accordance with the standard building code or demolish at the option of the owner. And two, if the building or structure possesses an immediate hazard to life or to the safety of the public, it shall be ordered vacated immediately. And some of those that we saw, in my opinion, it should be vacated immediately. There's no way that anybody should be living in these structures or around these structures where things could fall, cave in, or live in those kind of conditions. I'll tell you, the property owners they're reaching out for help to what to do. And go to the next slide if you don't mind. Tenants, I'm sorry, I keep saying the property owners. I apologize. Tenants, I apologize. Sir? That's right. Go ahead. So before you click that, we met with several tenants. Clay met with one property owner. I'm gonna get that right. We had one of the tenants seek us out, actually come to City Hall and says, hey, I heard you came around to look at Colony, and I lived downstairs in one of those buildings, and I just want to show you what I've been dealing with. And he brings out a phone and shows us this video, and he said, I'd like for you to have a copy of it, do what you want to. He said, I'm leaving. I've got to find a better place to live. However, I want you to see this. If anything that you can do, I want you to have this. And I'm gonna play the video for you. This is directly off his phone, and if you don't mind, Clay, play that.
January 27 around 2:30 in the afternoon. And the day is February the 1st. Today they ain't seen nobody out here to even fix this stuff. But I'm looking forward to getting up out of here anyway. But anyway, let me show you this stuff. I know you heard it. She came in yesterday talking about it was fixed. Today is the 1st. Came on the 31st. We did that. Brought shade tree out here. One is it's like the second, third time. Thing we can do. Nasty.
So I'll tell you, the tenant that's there, he said that's raw sewage backing up into the tub. It's been going on for, at that time, 7 days, 7 days straight. Doesn't know what to do. When the gentleman above him flushes the toilet, takes a shower, says it shoots up raw sewage out of the toilet in the shower, a couple feet high. And ma'am.
He mentioned in the video, it sounds like, who are they reporting this to? Is it a on-site property manager?
he said to the landlord and or property manager. I don't know if
There's
later
not
you did
an
distinguish
on-site property.
But it's not a,
property owner.
okay.
But I think in each one of the situations, Mitch Rich, that they're all handled a little differently. Some people take care of their own property. Some people hire out a management company as well to do these. So number one, I wanted to show you what we saw, and to show you the sense of urgency that we have to take care of this situation, and to let you know that I'm actively moving forward with following the tools that we have at our disposal. We've classified this as Project Clean Sweep, and we're not going to let go of this. It's what our citizens want. It's what they told us they wanted. The people that live there, that are residents there, and we're going to start the proceedings to do that. And in your book, you've got a timeline, or basically a flow chart that shows you what this thing looks like from beginning to end, and that's it's on the very last page there. But there's two courses there, and I want to be respectful for time. But one is, once we start this process and we put them on notice, if they do not object or appeal the decision of the building official, it goes straight to fixing, repairing, or condemning, or demolishing. If they have an appeal, there's an appeal process to go through, and it's our intent to follow that process that's outlined in that guidance, in that abatement procedure that we've got. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you've got. That's all. Yes, sir. While we were there, Clinton, make sure I don't get this wrong. You mind addressing that about what happened while we were there?
As Mayor brought up, one of the ladies, and it was actually one of her houses that we were inside taking pictures of. He was the property owner is actually one of the 10 people that I've talked to, and he called and said, "Hey, have you been able to go over there and check my property out?" He has a property management team that takes care of it. So I actually answered the phone while I was in there talking to the resident. I said, "Yes, sir. I'm actually staying in your house now." And he said, "Well, how bad is it?" And as you see from most of the pictures, and I was bluntly honest with him, I said, "It's not great." And he kept asking that same question over there, "How bad is it?" I said, "It's not great." Well, we were walking across the street going to another one. Vehicle pulls up. The lady that's the tenant of that home come over there. He had her evicted, or the property management team had her evicted for contacting us, trying to do something better, trying to get her out of what she's in. And they just, I mean, the lack of care and concern for the tenants is beyond measure. So yeah, they as the mayor said, they kicked her out while we were standing there. Wouldn't speak to us. I tried to flag them down. I tried to make contact with the lady that was doing it. She tried to stop her again, tried to get her to come over there and talk to me. She never slowed down. Thank you.
So one thing, if it's okay, I asked Leanne to come up. She did a little investigating about the property management people that we have and business license. Leanne, do you mind?
Yeah,
Take it just a minute.
It's okay with y'all. We can put these two last items in the staff reports, because I think this is important that we stay on this. Everybody okay with that? You okay with that, John? Go ahead, Leanne.
Okay, so just quickly, I wanted to address, because again, we have sort of varying situations out there, that there's not one unified owner. Some owners own multiple properties. Sometimes it's a single owner per property. Some of them are under property management companies, some are not. So my concern is that if we have property management companies operating inside the city that are allowing these type of properties to be rented out to citizens, I think, that's on us to say, should we continue to issue them a business license? From our standpoint, at least in my office, there is a procedure for revocation of a business license for real estate property management companies. I think there should be a copy of it's section 24 in the business license. Yes, it should be in there. But there's a lot of words in there, but basically in section 24A, if you go down to the bottom of that, it says the license may be revoked or suspended where it is found that a licensee is operating in an illegal manner, is violating applicable zoning regulations, or is operating in a manner which is detrimental to the health, safety, comfort, and convenience of the public. So, I mean, I think we can all agree that there's definitely some health and safety issues, happening at these properties. And there is a process that the council can set a hearing for any licensee and has the option to revoke those business licenses for anyone who's currently licensed, or you can choose to, if they're trying to renew a license, you can choose to not renew. That's under section C there, the process that we have to go. We have to, declare that we're going to hold a hearing concerning their business license, and they have to be provided 10 days notification of when the hearing is going to be so that they can make arrangements to attend and be present for that hearing. Something else that I wanted to point out is that it's not just property management teams, is that technically under our business license code, an individual who owns 3 or more properties that have at least $20,000 in annual revenues are required to have a business license per the business license ordinance that was passed this last year. So if there are any owners who also fall into that category, who they have it and they're required to have a license, and if they have a license with us, they could again have their license revoked with the city. So it's council's discretion, but it would be another avenue to sort of address some of the things that are going on. I mean, my feelings is that if we have a property management or an owner, even if we address this particular section of the street or the section of town, are they running similar properties in other parts of the town? So I think that would be something that the council could at least address, through a hearing like this would allow you to speak with them and discuss that. So.
Who initiates the revocation process? Engineering, building, business?
Revenue, I believe.
So revenue.
Yeah, if that is at the council's wishes, then revenue can initiate that.
What are the council's thoughts on that, Scotty?
No, we need to jump right on that. We need to pass something. I mean, this is, to me, I'll use my word, criminal. Those little babies, those kids that live in those places, and the adults that live in those places. God forbid, in Enterprise, Alabama, we let this happen. So we need to correct it now. Get these property owners to do what they're supposed to do.
So you're in favor of allowing
yes
engineering to go, and
let's do it.
So multi-pronged approach.
Yes, sir.
Greg, what are your thoughts?
I don't think we need to allow licensed slumlords in Enterprise.
Yep.
Eugene?
I think we should look at both avenues, the licenses and the property owners going through the process of repairing, condemning, demoing, whatever. There's no sense in having property like this in Enterprise.
Sonia, your thoughts?
I think we need to do whatever it is to the utmost, to whatever our ordinance and whatever our codes will allow us to do. I mean, we have reached out multiple ways, and it's just to the point now that we knew it was bad, but after watching that, I just don't think it's a question of what it is that we must do.
Yes,
and we need our, expeditiously.
This is not new. It's been going on for years.
Yeah, and go ahead, Mayor.
I had a chance also to look at that. And again, it's another one right off the iPad. But that is the most deplorable condition that you would ever want to see in what we would call a free world. Yep. It's better living in a third world than what's right before there. If there was an emergency, the fire truck, the ambulance, or nothing, to get over, there's holes in that road over there as big as this table. And you can see and the smell and to just look to see
So, I mean, staff, I think you've got the council's support. It sounds like, I mean, unanimous support because, you know, to Eugene's point, this isn't new. We've been on the council for 5 years now. We've tried. We've been complaining about this since we've been on board. It is time to take a much more aggressive tack. That's the only thing that's going to work. Either one of the chiefs have anything to add? I saw both of y'all back there staring like.
So obviously we have more, I guess, at stake to this than a lot of them as city employees go because we deal with this all the time. We've been into these residents on many avenues of reasons why we're in there, and they're correct. It makes it very difficult for us to do our job in there, and it's disheartening to see people living like this, and like Councilman Goolsby said and the mayor said, how can somebody allow somebody to live in these conditions? And Barry and Jonathan and I and the chief have come together over and over again last year trying to figure out what the first plan is. And sometimes I think we've all just come down to let's put our foot in and get it done. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to upset people, but that's why we're there, is to make sure that when they're upset, they know why we're doing this. And I don't think you'll have any issues out of any of the tenants down there of us trying to make it a better place for people. So.
Chief Davis.
We've got a solid path to move forward. I think they've done a fantastic job. We're all on board. Obviously, I agree with Chief Moore. We've been inside many of these homes for active emergencies. And it makes you feel like there's not much that you can do about it when you leave them. This is our opportunity to move forward and fix the problem. I also agree with the chief. We're gonna upset some people. We're gonna upset a lot of people. Half of my job is saying no. Same with him. But this is an opportunity to do some good for the city. And obviously the fire department's on board, the police department's on board. They've done a fantastic job of putting together a plan.
Well, I mean, to the mayor's point, this isn't the only one, so hopefully this will put pressure. You know, you got the carrot and the stick. It's obviously going to be the stick on this particular complex, but hopefully we're dangling a carrot out there for the others to fall in line, or they'll be next, right?
So when we first started, when Barry first came to us, that's what Jonathan, Barry, and I did, is we rode around and I showed him the areas that we have serious problems with. There are certain laws that we can enforce, or certain laws that has to come from a building inspector, somebody that's obviously knowledged in that area to say, man, that is not right. We know it's not right. Be able to testify in court or anything else. That's why we needed an engineer to come in. We've been trying for the last, like I said, it hadn't been something that we said, we'll just move on with this. We have been actively figuring out what the best route for this is. And like you said, Mr. Townsend, this isn't the first property. This isn't the last property. There are plenty of properties in the city of Enterprise that need a lot of attention or just need to go away and start fresh. And I hope this kind of sets the standard for where we go from here. And as Chief Davis said, we'll be there. We're there 24/7 anyways. We'll be there to assist engineering and anything they need. So.
Okay. Well, Barry, I think you've got your marching orders. Is there anything else you need?
Just two things I want to add, if you don't mind. You know, we talked about, we picked Colony just because this happened last Wednesday and formulating a plan, but we're not going to stop at Colony. We're going to go around to these areas and we're going to tackle them all the same and treat everybody fairly. And there's standards that have to be upheld, and we're going to make people do that. The other thing I was going to tell you is part of this is to put together a board to appeal to, and I don't have the technical term as per the code, but it's a 5-person board. And that board, it consists of an engineer, an architect, and 3 people with general construction backgrounds. So by next council meeting, I'll give you some names of people that have volunteered. I've already got about half the people that have volunteered to be a part of that. But when we start this process, the property owner has the right to appeal the building official call that says it's unsafe. And we have to have that panel, that board in place. Like I said, engineer, architect, 3 construction people. So I'll give you that for next council meeting for y'all to consider, and we'll go ahead and create that board to have that ready, because when we do this, they have 30 days
Are those
to.
council appointments or mayor appointments?
It says appointed by the governing body, which I
That
assume
would be
is you.
us, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right, Rainer? That would be us. Okay.
And we're working through that with Rayner and legal and making sure we're doing this exactly the legal and proper way. But I just want you to know there is another action that you will have to take to support this from engineering to get that board put together. And we'll have that to you ASAP.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We got a couple minutes. Anything else? Anybody has to add?
Well, I
Go ahead,
know
Sonia.
we've heard that we're going to make some people upset, but one thing I noticed out of the report, there were tenants coming to you all. That's one of the things that we kind of had a little heartburn about in some of our sessions we're talking about. But this is exactly, I remember it may have been 2020, 2021, Eugene and I met with you about what could we do when you first came on board. So this is exactly what it's definitely what I had in mind, and I'm so glad that you all have taken this approach, and I'm satisfied with. It's disheartening to see that. It's actually heartbreaking, but it's we expected that. So I think the tenants will be pleased. That's where I'm going with that. I think a lot of them want the intervention.
Okay.
I
Go ahead,
have
Barry.
one thing, if I could switch gears. I see some people in the audience. At the last planning commission, there was an agenda item for a 32 acre that was a rezone to a B1 R75A. And that came through planning commission without a recommendation. There was not voted for or against. It came out coming to you with no recommendation. Talking to the developer, they have pulled that request off the agenda. In case somebody's coming tonight to speak to you in that effect, I just want to let them know that
was
that has been pulled.
conspicuously absent from our
It was
agenda
absent
packet.
from your agenda, and it's because they requested that to be removed at this time. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, council, we will take a 1 minute recess and be back here at 6 o'clock. So make your I need another water. You need one? Everybody good?
I'm good.
Everybody good with water?
Good evening, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good.
What's up, son? Oh. How you doing, sir? Man, you got that thing. When I grew up, just like you. The grader, he'll spray save the road, but he won't come down to the house. He ain't been down there 3 or 4 times since he sprayed the road.
All right, I will be glad to check on it for you. What is the name of the little road that's right in front of your house? Clay. They're coming down Davis, but not hitting Clay. Okay.
Wait on Scotty. All right, I've got a couple minutes after 6 o'clock. If we could get the room back in order. I do need a gavel. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if we could, everybody could take their seat. All right, I will now call this meeting of the Enterprise City Council to order. Please let the record show that all council members are present. If you would, please stand with me for our opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. We've got Pastor Chris Thomas from First Presbyterian Church.
Our blessed and only sovereign and the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Lord, we honor you, the Lord of all creation. You are the one who of old laid the foundations of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. And so we submit ourselves to you this day. We ask that you bless this land that we love so deeply. We pray that these woods and fields and streets would run free with the Spirit of God, and that your truth would reign supreme, and that your Son would be exalted. We ask you bless our city council and our mayor, and that your wisdom would descend upon them, and you give them to lead with righteousness and with truth and with justice, and that you would shine your face upon each of them, upon this great city that we love. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, Council, you should have the agenda in your packet in front of you as discussed in the previous work session. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the council for review, are considered to be routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the City Council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request of a member of the City Council. I will now call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please let the record show I'll be abstaining from this motion because of a conflict with accounts payable B. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Strike that vote, please. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll now have privilege of the floor. This moment of the meeting that any member of the public that is here tonight may address the council for 3 minutes regarding anything. I will point out we do have one public hearing tonight regarding a rezone from Revocation LLC. Sorry if I butchered that name, but if you wish to speak to us about that, there will be a public hearing later. Otherwise, if it's about anything else, now would be your time to do that. Typically, the way this works is you would come forward, tell us who you are, and an address, and you would let us know what you think. If any members of the council want to address that issue, we do have some time at the end of the meeting to do that. So is anybody here that wishes to address the council tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to staff reports. Jonathan, you mind coming forward? We had an item we didn't get to, at least one item we didn't get to in the work session. Give us an update on the pickleball courts.
Sure. So after the lively group we had at our last council meeting, several of you, including the mayor, reached out to me to say, what could we do if we were looking at doing more pickleball courts. So I don't have a definitive answer on cost and those kind of things, but I will tell you that next week Billy Powell has arranged for a company that does the synthetic courts for tennis and pickleball to come out and assess some sites about what the cost to do that would. We also reached out to the community college. They have a concrete pad where 6 abandoned tennis courts were. There is a process that we can work out a memorandum of understanding or agreement with the community college system. That would be the most, in my opinion, in talking with Billy Powell and our engineer, Barry Mott, that would be the most expeditious route. So in other words, something that we could get through and design and get open in the next 12 months. That area seems to already have a concrete pad there. We'd have to resurface it, put up some fencing. But the concrete pad's large. It's 290 feet by about 140 feet. So, I think we could accommodate somewhere close to 16 pickleball courts. Potentially
How many?
16.
Wow.
Potentially in multiple phases.
You probably wouldn't do all those at once.
Well, depending on the cost, obviously that would be up to you. But I do think that based on the amount of traffic that we have, Billy's been keeping records, and so has our local pickleball group. I think that 16 would be a little bit of a reach right now. But I think reaching out to the pickleballers that were here, and I don't know if I said that right, but we'll call them pickleballers, that were here at the last meeting. They would be okay with 8 initially if we had a design, a master plan to accommodate future growth. And that site would certainly allow us to grow into, a robust pickleball.
So the good thing
program.
about this is there's already parking available there.
Utilities are at the site.
Utilities are there. It would be contiguous with a current project we've got underway, kind of
Correct.
tile all that in. When you brought this up, I thought it was an excellent idea. Does anybody have any questions on that? Everybody good, at least pursuing more information?
Okay. As we get that, I'll give you more updates.
Okay, then the other item was the planning commission item, which I think is what Barry was going to address. So anything to add to that?
No, just at the tail end there, for those in attendance, the rezone for roughly 32-acre parcel along 27 and Dolphin that was no recommendation made from the planning commission to the council. That was pulled at the request of the developer last week, and so that's why it's not on the agenda.
So ball's in their court.
Ball's in their court, and I believe they have 6 months to present something to the council if they'd like. Otherwise, they'll have to go back to the planning commission.
Okay. Any questions on that? All right. Thank you. Any other staff reports? I know we heard from several of you earlier. All right. No more staff reports. We'll move on to old business. So I'll now call for a public hearing prior to consideration of Ordinance 040522, providing for the rezone of 0.847 acres of land owned by Revocation LLC from R100 Residential District to B1 General Business District located at 805 Damascus Road. This public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here to speak against this rezone? Is there anyone here to speak for this rezone? All right, seeing none, I will now close the hearing and entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second, to adopt ordinance 040522. Is there any further discussion from the council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to new business. I'll now introduce for the record a recommendation from the Enterprise Planning Commission to approve the following request for the rezone property. Request by Deborah Severs for rezoning 0.22 acres of land from B3 Highway Commercial District to R65 Residential District located at 204 North Watson Street. There'll be no action taken on that act. We're just introducing that for the record. I'll now introduce ordinance 050322, which is also concerning the Severs rezone. I now introduce ordinance 050322, providing for the rezone of 0.22 acres of land owned by Deborah Severs from B3 Highway Commercial District to R65 Residential District located at 204 North Watson Street. I also call for a public hearing to be held at the regular meeting scheduled for June 7th, 2022. No action will be taken on this tonight. I will now introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 050322, providing for the consent to amend the Certificate of Incorporation of the Waterworks Board. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? For the benefit of the public that wasn't here earlier, this is something that the council's been discussing for a long time now concerning the increase of board members from 3 to 5 that serve on the Waterworks Board. This particular resolution limits the board to one council member and no members of the or no employees of the city of Enterprise. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I now introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 050322A, providing for notice of the city's intent to apply for FY 2023 Land and Water Conservation Fund assistance through the Alabama Department of Economic and Community Affairs. The resolution further authorizes the mayor to sign any and all necessary application papers, as well as any contracts or agreements relative to the project. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 050322A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I now introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 050322B, providing for the adoption of the Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Program, NWPP, Annual Report for MPDES Permit Number AL0020036 for the College Street Wastewater Treatment Facility. The report sets forth the actions and schedule necessary to maintain effluent requirements contained in the permit and prevent the bypass and overflow of raw sewage within the collection system or treatment plant. I'll entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 050322C, providing for the adoption of the Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Program, MWPP, Annual Report for MPDES Permit Number AL0020061 for the Northeast Wastewater Treatment Facility. The report sets forth the actions and schedule necessary to maintain effluent requirements contained in the permit and to prevent the bypass and overflow of raw sewage within the collection system or treatment plant. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 050322C.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 050322D, providing for the adoption of the Back to School Sales Tax Holiday as per Act 2017-120, beginning at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, July 15th, 2022, and ending at 12 midnight on Sunday, July 17th, 2022. Covered items relate to purchases for school purposes to include, among other things, clothing, school supplies, and computers. I'll entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 050322E, providing to accept for maintenance the streets and other public easements improvements which are expressly shown on the final plat of Woodland Park Phase 4 subdivision as public dedications, subject to the contingencies and matters as set out in the April 27th, 2022 letter from Barry Mott to the council. I'll entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 050322F, providing to accept for maintenance the streets and other public easements improvements which are expressly shown on the final plat of Bella Woods Phase 1 subdivision as public dedications, subject to the contingencies and matters as set out in the April 27th, 2022 letter from Barry Mott to the council. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 050322G, regarding approval of agreement with Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs related to the Benny G. Atkins State Veterans Home in Enterprise, Alabama. As the resolution is passed, it is directed that the final form of agreement be approved by City Administrator and Mayor. So, Council, if we're going to consider this tonight, which has been the request of staff, then we need to suspend the rules. So I'll now entertain a motion to suspend our rules for immediate consideration.
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I know we discussed earlier that we felt it was appropriate since this has been public discourse for some time now and was a request of staff. So, any further discussion? All those in favor of suspending the rules say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to immediately consider Resolution 050322G.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now introduce and call for consideration of request from Fire Chief Christopher Davis to purchase a 2022 Ford F-150 half-ton 4x4 pickup truck in the amount of $35,191. The vehicle will be purchased off of the state bid list from Stivers Ford. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now call for nominations to Enterprise City School Board, Seat 2, for a 5-year term in accordance with Section 1611.3 of the Code of Alabama, commencing on the date of the next regular meeting of the board in June of this year. Nominations are now open.
I would like to nominate Marie W. Harrison.
All right, you hear Councilman Goolsby's nomination. Are there any further nominations? Do I hear a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to close nominations for the school board seat 2. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of closing nominations say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we have one single nomination for Marie Harrison. All those in favor, or I'm sorry, I'll entertain a motion to approve the nomination.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now call for nominations to the Enterprise School Library Board, Seat 3, for a 4-year term beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2026.
I would like to nominate Ms. Rhonda Bowron for that seat.
Are there any further nominations? Do I hear a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of closing nominations say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Rhonda Bauer.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now call for nominations to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Seat 1, for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2025. Do I hear any nominations?
I'd like to nominate current member Ann Bridgette for an additional term.
Are there any further nominations? Do I hear a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close nominations. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Ann Bridgette.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now call for nominations to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Seat 2, for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2025. Do I hear any nominations?
I'd like to nominate current member Gwen Gilly for reappointment.
All right, you hear the nominations. Are there any further nominations? I'll entertain a motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt the nomination.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And I'll call for nominations to the Incubator Advisory Committee, Seat 1, for a 4-year term beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2026. Do I hear any nominations?
I'd like to nominate current member Larry Milliner to continue in that seat.
All right, you hear Councilman Paget's nomination. Are there any further nominations? I'll entertain a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of closing the nominations say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt the nomination.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'm gonna have mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and to our department heads on the wonderful job that you're doing trying to move our city forward. Also, I would like to note that we had a young man graduated from Enterprise High School, Marcus Jones, who was he graduated from high school, went to Troy, and ended up at the University of Houston. But the other night there, he was drafted by the New England Patriots, and it is always good to see something of this nature coming from a small town. We had the 7A basketball state championship. Now we have another young man who has gone on to play with the NFL. Understand there was also another young man that was drafted to play with one of the Major League Baseball teams that also came from Enterprise. So again, that's another star in our crown. And for Coffee County, over at Elba, I understand there was another young man who also was drafted into the NFL. So again, Billy Powell, from the PV League up to where we are now, want you to know Marcus was a part of that, and it just goes to show you where it's not always where you come from, but it's where you're going. And again, we want to thank you and your staff for what you're doing, molding the minds and the foundation for these children as they get out into the world to do well and represent our city. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman Rich.
I'm certainly glad to see everyone out tonight. I understand that some members from the club, Yes the Food Club from Enterprise, are here taking part of the civic process tonight. So it's good to have you all here. They're a civic service organization here at Enterprise. And so thank you, Barry, and your staff for Operation Clean Sweep. So we're looking forward to that. That's it.
Mr. Goolsby.
I'm happy to have two things that I've worked on. The water board changing from 3 members to 5 members is something I've worked on diligently, and I'm glad to see that happen. And nuisance property has always been a pet peeve of mine, and I'm sure glad to see something happening with this property here. Usually the property I'm negotiating with is a single house and a good subdivision. We're looking at multiple properties here that need to be cleaned up, and I'm glad to see something getting done.
Mr. Paget.
I'd also like to echo everyone's comments on Operation Clean Sweep. Glad to see this happening. We've been talking about it for quite some time. Good to see it moving. Also, I think our conversation tonight about looking into pickleball can let the citizens know that if you come, show up, and make your request known, we pay attention to it. So get involved.
Yeah, thank you for everyone coming, and thank you for everyone that's online, and I'll echo that too with Greg. I've told a lot of folks, in fact, that's how we got the B ordinance going through. It just told that individual, come here, talk for 3 minutes, and people will hear you. And again, commend the city staff for all your tireless, long hours that you've spent with the Operation Clean Sweep. We need to take care of
those youngins out there and take care of our citizens. They don't need to live where it's not safe and not healthy. We need to do a better job of that. I'm glad we're jumping on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, especially mayor, staff, Eugene, and other council members for keeping the pressure on this nuisance property. I'm glad to see the progress we've made just in the last few months since we. I know there's been a lot of hard work and a lot of hard work left to be done. But thank you for that update. And you know, this VA home, it's been a long time coming. A lot of work's going on with that. So very excited to pass that resolution tonight that really codifies our partnership with the ADVA. Very excited about that. And thank you, Mayor, for pointing that out about Marcus Jones. I believe the young man's name is Brendan Donovan. Is that right, Warren? I think he got a hit the other night, too, for the Cardinals, right? Yeah, so big things coming out of our town. But thank everybody for coming, and you have a good evening.